Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Togen's Fly Shop, Maui Jim Sunglasses, and Hardy Rods and Reels. Today on the bench I want to tie you up Don's Dragon. Now one thing I really don't like when I'm tying dragonflies, especially gomphaus, is all the deer hair. I just don't like the deer hair. So now I've got some new materials I use that eliminates the deer hair and still gives me a very floaty dragon, which I like. So make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the fly. For the hook, we'll use a Mustad R74 size 8 streamer. We'll use some 6/0 rust thread to tie with, some 6mm gray round foam for the eyes, some 7/8 inch Plumb foam body for the body, some Litchen Straggle string for the underbody, some Litchen Straggle string for the thorax, some natural pheasant tail for the legs, and for the markings, some Pantone pens. To start the fly off, of course, I'm going to put on my thread and just wrap in a small little base layer just to get it going. Now that we have the thread tied in, I'm going to take some of my Litchen colored straggle string and tie it in, tie right back to the bend in your hook, and then when you come back about 2/3 of the way up your hook. You don't want to come all the way up, just about 2/3, and then we're going to wrap in a straggle string underbody. Now that we have the straggle string underbody tied in, we're actually going to color our little foam body. We want it to make it look like the segmentation of a dragonfly. And I've got three main Pantone pens. I've got a brown, kind of a bright green, and an olive. And those are the colors you want. So really when I'm drawing my lines in, I want to use my really bright chartreuse olive, and I'm just going to put in about, there's 1, 2, I'm going to make about 6 bands on the back of the fly. And this is just to give it that segmentation. And they don't have to be very even. And then I'm just going to go one down the middle. Right down the middle. So that starts it off. Now I'm going to fill in a little bit with my darker olive in those gaps. And again, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just want to make it look like it's a, the color of the dragon on the back. Fill in as much as you can, and then I'm going to work with my brown after and put dots in there, because they always have various colors. There's light greens, there's olives, there's darker colors, so you want a combination. So now that you have the top of the body all colored up, I'm just going to take the brown, and I like a lot darker bottom on it. So I'm just going to get the fat part of this. So now you've got the body all colored, and again, try different colors. Go with the olives and the browns and put some spotting on it. All the dragons have different colors. The bottom is all brown. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a notch on the bottom. So I've got a knife, and I'm just going to form a slit at the bottom, just so it fits in to my hook about halfway. So take a knife or some razor blade and just be very careful. So there's the slot. You can see the slot now. Now what I'm going to do is slide it on just into the slot, right up about 2/3 up the hook bend. You can see you've got a little bit of overlap off the back, and then just wrap over that front foam with your thread just to tie it in. Now that we have the body tied in, I'm going to take some of my foam eyes, and again, just cut it in half. Cut that piece of foam in half, and then we'll take the 1/2 of that and tie it in just behind the eye of the hook and form a couple eyes on the fly. And we'll cut these back a little later. Now that we have the eyes tied in, I'm going to take about 3 to 4 segments of my pheasant tail and just make them as long as the right back to the back end of the body. And just tie one in on one side and one on the other. And the main thing is just pull them down so they're both the length of the body and they're on the side of the fly. And cut off your excess. And do the same with the other side. Now that we have the legs tied in, we're going to make a bit of a thorax and back on the fly. So we're going to take some of our straggle string material and tie it in right behind the eyes and then wrap it. And when you wrap back a little bit over the back of the body so that your legs will splay out a little bit on the side and they won't stick straight out. So just go back. It forms a bit of a wing case on the fly and the thorax. And build it up so you have a nice thorax on the fly. And tie off behind the eyes. Now that we have the thorax tied in, I'm going to take my thread forward in front of the eyes. And what we're going to do is just whip finish in front of the eyes. Give it a good whip finish. Cut off your thread. Now that we have the eyes tied in, you have this option. And I didn't want to put this in the materials list, but this Gulf material, the Gulf UV resin, is very good. I have fluorescent green here, the chartreuse. It's very bright. And how I really like to offset this fly is I put one little dab on each eye. And then I just hit it with the UV light. And when you do this, it really sets off the fly. You know, a lot of times I used to leave it off. But now I've found that hitting with the chartreuse Gulf and putting just a small little eye on each of the big eyes really sets this fly off. So there it is, Don's Dragon. I mean, it is a lazy way to tie. I mean, I love these foam bodies. They make it very easy. You don't have to deal with the deer hair. And you know, this fly floats like a cork. I can use it on a real fast sink line, type 7. Type 8, down on the weeds, you know, lengthen out my leader, and I know this fly isn't going to get hung up on the weeds because it floats so well. So, Don's Dragon, good substitute for the deer hair Gulf.